I'm Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. We at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association practice the Buddhist teachings as taught by the 13th century Japanese Buddhist sage Nichiren Shonin. The word Nichiren means sun lotus and Shonin means priest. It is Nichiren who teaches us that the highest of the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings was that of the Lotus Sutra, and we practice the Lotus Sutra as taught by Nichiren Shonin. Now, the way that we teach Buddhism and practice Buddhism is based on the Gosho. The Gosho are letters that Nichiren wrote to his disciples to teach them Buddhism. Today, we bring to you an exciting Buddhist lecture. Our Buddhist lecture today is called Harriet Tubman, the Bodhisattva, a Black Buddhist Lecture. We at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association purposefully give Black Buddhist lectures because Buddhism, as it is predominantly taught in America and around the world, it is not so much as a Buddhist religion, but Buddhist religion is taught more as an Asian culture. Let me cite you an example. Here's a picture of the Nichiren Shu African-American priest Muke Shonin. Now, it is amazing that Muke Shonin is the first Westerner of African descent to be a Nichiren Buddhist priest. However, although Muke Shonin is a Nichiren Buddhist priest, when you look at her, she projects the epitome of Asian culture. One example is when you look at the bald head. Yes, she's committed, yes, she's dedicated, yet she's into Buddhism, and you see that bald head. Well, that bald head has nothing to do with Buddhism, it has nothing to do with the Lotus Sutra, but it has everything to do with Asian culture. In fact, I was looking to join the Nichiren Shu set after leaving Nichiren Choshu, and my friend Shaka, who is a member of the temple who Muke Shonin is the leader of, I went to the meeting at Shaka's house and I wrote Nichiren Muke Shonin a letter and I asked them about their policy towards African American people. And I was told by my friend Shaka I was no longer welcome at the Nichiren Shu meetings. Now, what you have in the Nichiren Shu meetings is that you have cultural imperialism. If you look at my friend Shaka house, you look at the house, you look at the practice, what you have is an Asian cultural imperialism of dominance. Now you look here and you look at this Buddhist altar that I had. This altar here, my brothers and sisters, was made in Africa, and you see my African culture, my history, and my language, because we believe in teaching Buddhism in a way that's inclusive of our culture, history, and language. Now, the question that many of you may ask, since my topic is Harriet Tubman, the Bodhisattva, what does this have to do with Buddhism? See, in regards to the Lotus Sutra is the essence of the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. The Lotus Sutra explains that Buddhism is all of life's phenomena. Please understand that we at the Proud Black Buddhist teachings put a warning label in regards to how Buddhism is taught by the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu, and other Asian Buddhist sects. Most of the Asian Buddhist sects extricate all black history, culture, and language from Buddhism. The Nichiren sects are supposed to follow the teachings of Nichiren Shonin, but they do not. Those of you who are interested in what Nichiren writes, you have to look no further than the Gosho. The Gosho are letters that Nichiren wrote to his disciples to teach them Buddhism. Now, in the Gosho, the gifts arise, it explains how the idea of Harriet Tubman, the Bodhisattva, a Black Buddhist Lecture. You see, in America, They have just announced on April the 20th, 2016, that they will change the $20 bill and put a black woman on the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman will be on the $20 bill. Now, let us explain to you how this relates to Buddhism. You see, in the Go Show, The Gift of Rights, it reads, quote, "The truth had lies in the affairs of this world. The Golden Light Sutra states, to have a profound knowledge of this world is itself Buddhism. The Nirvana Sutra states, quote, all of the non-Buddhist scriptures and writings decide to themselves Buddhist teachings, not non-Buddhist teachings." It goes on further. Quote, it says, when the great teacher Milo compared these passages from the one of the 6th volume of the Lotus Sutra that reads, quote, no worldly affairs of life or work are ever contrary to the true reality. He revealed their meanings and pointed out that although the first 2 sutras are profound, since their meaning is still shallow and fails to approach that of the Lotus Sutra. He goes on further, he says, they relate to sacred matters in terms of Buddhism, whereas the Lotus Sutra explains that in the end, secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you look on the news and you find out that now you have a black woman for the first time in history who is going to be on the $20 bill, that is Buddhism. See, the Gold Show teaches us the truth had lies in the affairs of this world. It was announced on April 22nd, 2016 that Harriet Tubman, a black woman, will be put on the $20 bill. Do you know that the most used currency in the world, in America, is the $20 bill? When you go to the teller machine, you get $20 bills, and they put not just a black woman, they put a black revolutionary woman on the $20 bill, and this is what we at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association call a cultural coup. I live in Memphis, Tennessee. You see, Memphis, Tennessee was named Memphis after Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the President of the United States who came from Tennessee. He is the master, and he is what we call the original or the original American who practiced ethnic cleansing. It was Andrew Jackson who went to Florida and killed the Seminole Indians, and then when he became president, he initiated what is called the Indian Removal Act. That is what Andrew Jackson did was he and his buddies in the Congress passed a law that all the Cherokee, all the Indians east of the Mississippi River had to be taken to a reservation in Oklahoma. He did not believe in a cultural integration, and what he did was he set up Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee, where I live, was designed for cotton. Memphis became not only the cotton capital of the world, it's still the cotton capital of the world, but Memphis, Tennessee was the slave capital of the world. And Memphis, Tennessee was a city where the environment was developed to where they can kill a Dr. Martin Luther King. That's what Memphis was. Memphis was the slave capital of the world. Now, in my own life, in my personal life, I met the spirit of Harriet Tubman. I was in Kenya in 1990 at the Masai Mara Plains in Kenya, and I broke out into tears because I myself had traveled to Africa. And the ancestors spoke to me, and they said, tell your people to come home to Africa. And since 1990, I have developed my life, and to devoted my life to helping African Americans come home. In fact, I am asking the President of President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, to honor African Americans with a formal state reception. In fact, there's a news release, and you can Google these words. It's called Obama, King, Kennedy in Kenya. Now, this is what the news release says. It reads, Anthony Elmore is a 5-time world karate kickboxing champion, community activist, Nichiren Buddhist, and a 21st century Harriet Tubman, the abolitionist who took slaves to freedom. Instead of taking slaves to the north to freedom, Elmore's passion is to take African Americans to Africa to connect to their African ancestry. I am not only the Harriet Tubman who want to bring African Americans to their African heritage, I am the Harriet Tubman of Buddhism. And my goal is to free African Americans from Buddhist racism and inferiority. My goal is to bring African Americans to freedom of the highest teachings of Buddhism, of the Buddha Shakyamuni, and teach African Americans the Lotus Sutra. Black people, if you want to check SGI Daisaki Keita, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu, just ask any of those Japanese sects to produce written records of the inclusion of Black history, culture, and language in their Buddhist teachings. I got a friend, Mr. Alan Billups, who I call a Buddhist scholar. I asked Alan to show in Nichiren Shoshu writings that is inclusive of Black culture, history, and language. Now, Renee in California, who is my friend T. Murray. Renee in California, you know my cousin Maud the Victor. Maud almost worshiped Japanese Nichiren Shoshu priests. Ask Maud to ask any of the Japanese to produce any Black Buddhist history from Nichiren Shoshu. Now, we get to the SGI, they are even worse. The SGI owns a multi-billion-dollar publishing empire whose leader, Daisaki Keita. Daisaki Keita has produced hundreds of books, and not in one single book by Daisaki Keita is there any reference to African culture, African history, and African language. It is so bad that Daisaki Keita is so racist and so rotten and so low down that he writes in the book called The Living Buddha that the Buddha Shakyamuni is of an Indo-Aryan culture. Now, when you go even beyond and worse than the SGI, you got Nichiren Shu. Nichiren Shu is the first Buddhist organization that started the first university in Japan. In Nichiren Shu, they teach the Aryan invasion theory. Now, you got this white scholarly priest, his name is Reverend Ruo Michael McCormick. You go on his website and he's teaching about an Aryan invasion theory. You have an institution like the Risho University, and what they teach and what they propagate in Buddhism is perpetual institutional racism that totally extricates all Black history, all Black language from Buddhism. You got Black people supporting nonsense. My friend Shaka Kapani, your half Japanese priest Mukesh Shonin, the bald head does not make her Trump signs. There is no such thing as an Aryan invasion theory taught by Nichiren Shu, Nichiren Shoshu, and the SGI. Now, Renee, you informed me that you and my friend Thomas Murray were looking into joining Nichiren Shu. The bottom line is Nichiren Shu is just as racist as the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu when it comes to making Black Buddhist history inclusive. It is incredulous to me that Black people would choose one Japanese master over another. This is what African Americans or Black Buddhists hate to follow. Black Buddhists hate to follow the Gosho or the teachings of the messenger of the Buddha. See, Black people hate to follow the teachings of Shakyamuni. Now, and they hate the Gosho because in the Gosho it's called conversation between a sage and an unenlightened man, and it reads, quote, therefore, in the 6th volume of the Nirvana Sutra, his final teaching delivered in the grove of sour trees, our merciful father Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of the teaching, said, quote, rely on the law and not upon persons. Even when great Bodhisattvas such as Universal Worthy and Majushya men who have returned to the stage of near perfect enlightenment expound the Buddhist teachings, if they do not do so with the sutra text in hand, then one should not heed to them. I don't care if it's a Daisaki Keita, a high priest, or the Nichiren Shu University. If they don't have sutra text in hand, if they're not dealing with the law, then we should not follow them. So why would we go from one Japanese racist to another Japanese racist? Now, we at the Proud Black Buddhists follow the teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni. The Buddha teach us to follow the law and not persons. The law is science. Just because Echigai, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu teach a theory that goes against science, we should not follow such teachings. Now, let us get back to Harriet Tubman, the Bodhisattva Black Buddhist Lecture. The Lotus Sutra is the title of the Myoho Renge Kyo is the title of the Lotus Sutra. Myo means to open your mind or mystic. Ho means manifestations or the law. The law is the 3,000 worlds. Whether you practice a teaching called Buddhism or not, the law or the 3,000 worlds manifest. Harriet Tubman manifested her Bodhisattva nature. Harriet Tubman was born in 1822. She died in 1913. She was an American abolitionist. She was born a slave, but she became a humanitarian, an armed scout and spy for the United States Army. And during the Civil War, Tubman, who escaped to Philadelphia, then she immediately returned to Maryland to rescue her family. Slowly, one group at a time, she brought relatives with her out of the state and eventually guided dozens of other slaves to freedom. Traveling by night in extreme secrecy, Tubman, or Moses, who she's called, never lost a passenger. When the Civil War began, Tubman worked for the Union Army. She was a cook, a nurse, and then an army scout and a spy. She was the first woman to lead an armed expedition in war. She liberated more than 700 slaves. She was active in the women's suffrage movement, or women who wanted the right to vote. On April 20th, 2016, the United States Treasury Department announced a plan for Tubman to be replaced, Andrew Jackson. We got a black revolutionary woman announced to be on a $20 bill on April 20th, 2016. While in April 20th, you got black Buddhists who are afraid to challenge racist Japanese and Asians who removed all black culture, history, and language from Buddhism. Look at this picture of the ancient capital of Japan in Nara. It is a United Nations UNESCO site. What you have there is the largest indoor Buddha statue in the world that's made out of bronze and gold. This is called the Cosmic Buddha in the ancient capital of Nara. Look at the hair on this Buddha. This is a Black Buddha statue. When you look at ancient statues of the Buddha, you see that of a black man, because the father of history, who was Herodotus, said, who traveled, he was a Greek, and he traveled to India 150 years after the death of the Buddha. He says that Muro was the cradle of the Gymnosophists. The Gymnosophists were the Black Buddhists. You see, Buddhism was in Africa. The Lotus Sutra was in Africa over 1,000 years before it got to Japan, because the Lotus Sutra did not get to Japan until 1,400 years after the death of the Buddha. In the United States, America, by putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, is making black history inclusive of America. We got our first black president, Barack Obama Jr. We got our first black holiday, Dr. Martin Luther King. And we got a black woman who is going to be on a $20 bill. In all of the world, there exists not one single black independent Buddhist single until the emergence of the proud Black Buddhist World Association. If they can put a proud black revolutionary woman on a $20 bill, if a Beyonce can step up to the plate at the Super Bowl and show her black pride, if the late Prince Rogers Nelson, who showed his black culture and showed his black pride, we at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association are certainly proud of Harriet Tubman, a symbol of black pride and dignity on the $20 bill. I am Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association.
Until black is where it's at.
Fighting in the world for freedom, justice, and equality, we're the best suited. We are called the Proud Black Buddhists. We're going to put you guys on alert in the 15th chapter of Lotus Sutra, where the Bodhisattvas on the earth. Them giant suckers who trying to knock us. We are the Black Bodhisattvas. Dr. King, Malcolm X, and Nelson Mandela. The Black Bodhisattvas, the one that was stubborn and come from India. His name was Nichiren Buddhist. The old name for India is Ethiopia. From the land of India called Ethiopia, a great man called Shakyamuni Buddha. His great teacher called the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra teaches justice, freedom, and equality. We teach the people how to be free. The teacher Lotus Sutra, we're the best suited. We call ourselves the Proud Black Buddhists.